What up, Bucs Nation? We are back. It's Real Bucs Talk. It's a Monday, so that means it's a live stream. And we have a special guest. Always, Mark Ramirez is with me, but we have Jess Root here with us from Cards Wire and also Rise Up, See Red. I think I got that right. So,
yeah,
man, it's awesome to have you back on. We had you on for a podcast, and we also got a dog in the show. That's awesome. But we had you on a couple years back when the Bucs actually signed Bruce Arians, and you gave us a lot of knowledge about what to expect from him. So it's just awesome to get some insight again. And first of all, I mean, how are you doing, and what's new in life?
Well, I've hit almost 5 years with Cards Wire. Just did our 301st show on the podcast this past week. So awesome. Everything Cardinals land is, but that was after the 5 years at Cards Wire was after the 6 years I was with SB Nation. So I'm over a decade into this now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Mark.
A whole lot of time and effort, right? I mean, that's
it is.
Yeah. So I guess welcome back to the show. It's like we were saying before the show, like it's cool to put a face to the voice, but and the dog to the voice too. But no, it's all good. So let's get into this. So obviously, Mike was talking about how we first had you on, talking about what to expect out of the offense, defense, stuff like that. So the biggest question is, did you see this happening, like this quick rise to, okay, 1 year Jameis, it was iffy, barely 7-9 season, then now all the way to the Super Bowl run. Did you see something like that out of a Bruce Arians type offense, Todd Bowles type defense? Did you think it would be possible?
Honestly, getting Tom Brady was a game changer. Well, and then not only that is then adding the other veteran pieces like Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette. Those were all critical things that he could do. Now, we kind of saw the same thing with the Cardinals because in 2013, his first year, they started real slow. They finished 10-6, missed the playoffs. Then that very next year, they started the season 9-1, and that's when Carson Palmer went down. And then that probably, honestly, that's the big what if year for us is what if Carson hadn't gone down with the ACL, because as good as they were in 2015, they're in some ways defensively, they were better than in 2015. And I think that was because in 2015 it was James Bettcher was the first year that Bowles was gone and James Bettcher took over. 2014 was that really kind of special looking year, and then they built on that in 2015. So honestly, the way that they like 30 interception Jameis, and they're pretty all right. Yeah. And so it really wasn't a surprise to see them do that well, especially when you add a guy like Brady, who is he elevates everyone around him just by being Tom Brady. And it was kind of how I figured it is, because Arians' offense isn't the easiest to pick up initially. And even though Tom's numbers were fantastic. Yeah. They were fantastic. And even still, things started a little slowly over the course of the year. It had a couple hiccups. And that's the crazy thing is people watching Brady on tape are saying, yeah, he's not Tom Brady. But you look at the sum of the production and you're like, that's one of his best statistical years since the undefeated season.
Yes, look at this. He had 4,600 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. I mean, that in the tough first year and Bruce Arians, like that's what everyone was saying. Oh, it's not going to happen because everyone does terrible. That's why Jameis had 30 interceptions. And then Tom Brady comes over here with 40 and 12, which is insane if you think about it.
Well, Jameis I mean, super talented.
Oh, absolutely.
He is a gunslinger. He does. It's Carson was a lot of the same way. Like he was turnover prone up until the last couple of years because he's like, I can make that throw.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what it is with Jameis. Is like, I can make that throw.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got the power to throw anywhere.
Right. And it's that super confidence that actually bites them in the butt, because like, I see a hole, I see a window, I can get it in there, and they fail to see the safety that's waiting to get it or whatever. And so it'll be interesting to see what Jameis does in New Orleans, following Breeze.
Yeah, that's a tall order. Yeah.
That's not going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he beats out Taysom Hill, or do you think that Taysom Hill gets it first?
I mean, Jameis has got to win that job, right? I mean,
Yeah.
No,
Taysom Hill is really intriguing, but as a quarterback, I'm like, they protected him a lot. Peyton protected him a lot, and that and the arm talent just isn't the same at all. But I mean, Drew Brees' arm talent was not that great by the last couple of years. You could his downfield throws, you could see just the effort with which he had to get the ball down the field.
All right. So I got some scheme questions. So you said that Bruce Arians' offense down the field harder to learn the first year. Did you see a big change after the bye week? Like the more play action fakes, the more motions out of the supposed Bruce Arians offense? Do you think he molded a little bit to Tom Brady in that fashion to get this offense to work?
He likes, like, everyone says that he hates to run the ball. Like, he loves play action. That's kind of his bread and butter. He likes a power run scheme, and then to push the ball down the field. They did that a lot when they had an effective run game here with the Cardinals. And he does like to spread it out, but that's on like third down. Like first and second down, he likes to get into big formations and do play action. That's when his game is most effective, is the threat of that run game. And he is one who will bail on the run game if they're down a couple of scores because he wants to get back in it. But he has no problem with running the ball, and he likes to have a strong back. And honestly, the way that Ronald Jones played for a lot of the years, like he did way better. He looks like a much better back than I thought that he was.
There's just opportunities. He didn't get many opportunities at first year Cutter.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely a workload, back, towards most of the season. Then unfortunately he ran into COVID, and then he also got, I think he broke his finger as well. So that kind of led the way to Leonard Fournette. And then we all saw, what Leonard Fournette did in the playoffs, playoff Lenny, and he had a lot of success. But yeah, I mean, that is definitely a question we're facing here in the offseason as Bucs fans. It's like, what do we do at the running back position? Because you don't have Rojo or Leonard under contract for next year. So it's like, who is going to be that guy going forward? But, back to the schemes, and then you look at what we're doing defensively. I think we finally saw what Todd Bowles' defense is all about. But I also think Todd Bowles made some adjustments too. I mean, he was playing, I think it was because of the Vita Vea injury. I think because of him being out, they played a lot more zone coverage. But I know Todd likes to do zone coverage, but they played more aggressive man coverage and really fit what these cornerbacks do well. Did you see the same, like how he kind of mixed it up there in the playoffs? A lot better, I thought.
Like primarily he loves to blitz and then use man coverage on the outside when he's got guys that could do it. And I think honestly what the difference maker – what it ended up being is the difference is they're just unrelentless pressure up front. They have talented defensive backs. The cornerbacks that y'all have are solid, but it was really, if you look at how they built that defense, they built it with pressure up front. That disruption is what caused problems for Patrick Mahomes, and they just couldn't handle it. And when Bowles can get pressure up front, and he almost didn't have to scheme much of it. He already likes to blitz. It's fun. I remember a quote from years ago and of why he blitzes. And he doesn't just blitz to get to the quarterback, just to get an extra rusher. He talks about run blitzes. He will sometimes blitz to a, and sometimes it is to keep a back from going out. It's to keep, like, especially if you've got a pretty good receiving back. If you blitz, it forces him to stay in, and so you take away one of the weapons doing that way. And so I think just the ability to get pressure both inside and out just made everything else work. As Vance Joseph likes to say it here, I haven't heard other coaches talk about, but when you can marry the pressure with the coverage, it really is just dynamic. Because Bowles, he's a defensive backs guy to begin with, and so he played DB, and so his ability to work the coverage part and match that up with the pressure up front. And it doesn't help. I mean, it doesn't hurt when the talent that Tampa had up front. I mean, with Vita Vea, you've got Ndamukong Suh, still, I mean, tremendous player. And you got Shaq Barrett. He was tremendous as well. I mean, you just had, and then on top of that, you add into the middle of the field that pairing of Lavonte David and Devin White, and they eat space. Those are the types of linebackers that you don't have to take off the field because they can do it all. They move sideline to sideline. They're smart. They're strong, and it's perfect for Todd Bowles. And I think didn't I tell you guys? I think Lavonte David was going to be perfectly fine. He's going to be great. I can't remember what I told you guys about Gerald McCoy. We never really got a chance to see that because they were like, eh.
Yeah, well, like that, it ain't gonna fit in this one.
And I thought he would have been fine too, but Lavonte David, I felt would be great because inside backers in his scheme are super productive.
And that's something I wanted to kind of touch on because you were harping it over and over in that 2 year ago podcast of how he likes to build big defensive tackles in the front. And then linebackers that love how to blitz, love blitzing, getting in the A gaps. We kept fighting it because, like, we're of the notion of, like, we didn't like positional value of, like, a linebacker top 5. And then we're fighting it. And then all of a sudden, Devin White gets the pick, and he's, like, the ultimate perfect for this system, for this scheme. And I'm like, why the hell were we fighting it? Let's go what it was. So, like, I want just to kind of touch on that again, like the Todd Bowles defense of, like, because everyone's like, oh, let's draft this guy. And that's how we were before we listened to your words, and now it's come to fruition and what this defense turned into. Like, what, again, like, just give us the mold of what the defensive tackle is in a Todd Bowles scheme, and where's the pressure come from truly? Is it, the middle of the defense where the middle linebackers are blitzing, or is he value edge rushers, like speedy edge rushers? No, or where is it funneled to? Because
he really likes strong, bigger, stronger edge rushers. Who doesn't mind a speedy edge, but because they he wants an outside backer who can also set the edge. And so even when the Cardinals, he would use a guy like Matt Shaughnessy, who was big. He was a 285 pounder, and they moved him out to the edge. Now he wasn't a 3-down player, but they used him early on rundowns and was very good at setting the edge. So his preference is a guy who is about 260, 265, who can move. That's what made Chandler Jones so really good for him, because he gave him that flexibility that way. But he will typically look for guys that are stronger and bigger, who have length as well. So you kind of looking at some of the things. Now, granted, these premier pass rushers, they're not going to be like. Oh, actually, this year's class is kind of interesting because you have some big, fast guys that'll go early, but there's some intrigue a little bit later that necessarily are more specialized. They may not be of the same type of like prototype like the Everett Down, but something Bowles could definitely use, and he's not afraid to swap guys out in specific roles. Like he had, like for example, Matt Shaughnessy, who was defensive, more of a 4-3 defensive end, but was great against the run. They didn't have any problem with moving him out. He didn't always stand up, so he sometimes plays with his hand in the dirt. But they move him out there, and you still use him to set the edge to build that defense, because defensively, what they want to do is they want to push the ball to the middle, where you've got those playmaking linebackers who can get free. He does like a traditionally big defensive tackle, like up in the middle. Preferably now, he does like some position versatility, so he can use your traditional 2-down nose tackle. But if you've got a guy that can shift a little bit, that works as well. Like Vita Vea is versatile enough that he can go from the 1 to a 3 technique when you go with the even front.
Go ahead, Bubs.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, what do you think of? I mean, me and Mark have been having this discussion all day. Miami's pro day was earlier, and what do you think of like a Greg Rousseau in this type of scheme? Do you see him as a potential fit?
He is a guy that's like, everything I read is super polarizing about him. That a perfect fit might be a Calais Campbell role, but that will not make him the most productive. Calais became super productive. Like, he was solid. He was good. Playing that 3-4 DE. Like, they don't actually call them defensive ends for classifications. You got, well, early on, they would have a nose tackle, a DT, and a DE. And then they changed it, terminate, but it was in part to kind of help their interior guys to make the Pro Bowl, because a 3-4 defensive end is almost impossible to get into the Pro Bowl, because all the defensive ends are edge rushing 4-3 guys. And Calais always played inside. If you can get him to play with the same type of motor that Calais did, some people say put him out the edge. His best role is probably in that Calais role that he had with the Cardinals. But Jalen Phillips, I think, is the one that might be the more talented guy. Rousseau, I hear really up and down. Like, if you watch the tape, like one of the guys that, like, he's a sloth. Like, he's not like, there's talent and there's some production, but you don't like necessarily how it happens.
Right. The process. Yeah. The process is all over the place for me. But I mean, if he could be that 5 tech and maybe you work him in like a, kind of similar to a Richard Seymour, kind of like that, where he would play, that 5 tech role and you let him pass rush. I mean, from the inside, I feel like that's where his best strength is. He can't win on the edge. I mean, he hasn't shown it yet. So, maybe he develops into something, but yeah, that was just like a debate we were having earlier. Just want to get your thoughts. I agree that Phillips is the guy. But again, he's probably going to be, going high, top 20 pick for sure. If the medicals check out, which I think they will. So yeah, he's probably going, but I mean, so you're looking at this draft class and just trying to pair fits, obviously, we want bigger, stronger guys up front. You look at like maybe like a Joe Tryon out of Washington. You think like that, that kind of mold is what we're looking for.
I think Christian Barmore fits most games. I think he would be really good.
You think so in this game?
I do.
Okay. That's interesting.
Okay. So you're thinking of 3 techniques or more. I think I see him as more of a 3 technique. Do you think he could play like a? Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing: is that even though Bowles' scheme is a 3-4 scheme, they go nickel most of the time anyway, and so you end up with you take the nose tackle and you've basically got an even front where they're playing the 3 technique, and I'll go back to Darnell Dockett back in the day, so I have to bring it back a long time. He didn't love the scheme as much because it asked a little different things. Like he loved to get upfield, and they are somewhere between a traditional two gap and penetrating. Because if interesting, because Vance Joseph's defense, which is a Wade Phillips scheme, and Bowles have some similarities. They're not perfectly even, but if you look at the offenses that really give them trouble, it's Sean Payton's. Sean, the Saints and the Panthers as well, because they ran the same type of offense with Joe Brady there. It's that sort of offense just really is kryptonite to those defenses. So I don't think Christian Barmore would be. I mean, talent. And for me, you want if you have guys that aren't uber talented, like they aren't the top, then you go more scheme. Now, a guy like Barmore is going to be able to be productive in a number of roles. Like a lot of people thought Vita Vea might only be a nose tackle. He's more than that. He's more than that.
Yeah, my only concern with Barmore is he doesn't stop the run well at all. He's just trying to shoot gaps. That's why I see him as just a gap shooter. The main thing he asks his defensive tackles to do is stop the run first and then get after the pass after. I think Barmore doesn't really think that way. He's going to go no matter what into a gap. He doesn't really read anything else. And we do a lot of film studies here, and that's what we saw.
That could be. So that's what, like Robert Kimdichie, when the Cardinals took him, that was his main problem.
Not thinking of what it could be. It's just thinking, I'm just going to hit a gap. That's all. It's like, are you really thinking that much into it or not? Like, you got a beast athletically. Don't get me wrong. I loved him coming into the draft, and I'm like, this dude's a moron, though. Like, literally just – seriously, he literally on measurables and like the combine blew it out of the water. And then all of a sudden you see him playing, you're like, what the hell is he doing? Come on. But then again, he had a whole other bunch of issues too. But yeah, let's not talk about that. But no, I mean, yeah, it's always, the draft coming up, it's like 30 days away. So people are going to be talking, who are we getting, what's going on. Yeah, we have Kawab, Braden over here saying we should just draft best player available. I fully agree.
That's what you have to determine. Who is that best player? What and our draft board's gonna look different than Jason Light's draft board. And Jason Light, who worked with Steve Keim over here in Arizona, that's how they go. And they I'm sure he probably builds it the same way, builds the draft board kind of the same way, where they rank their players like 1 to 300 or whatever, and then they put their team filter on them and get it down to about 120 players. So their board ends up being 120 players. So a lot of guys, a lot of players that, one team might have with a first round grade, Tampa might have off their board for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's like with Keyshawn Vaughn last year. Everyone's like, why did we take him? There were so many other running backs on the board. BA flat out came out and said, what do you know about our board? We don't. I love the way he says stuff like that too. So the draft, you don't know. Like, that's why we get guys on like you that tell us like what to value, because you nailed it on the head with Devin White, and we kept fighting it. So it's more, what is it? Where do they value players? Certainly, like, what is a typical type of dude that fits this? Obviously, we know the length and size at man corners. We know that. Bigger defensive tackles, middle linebackers they love. There's just more trying to figure out areas of where they're going to go after. But let's jump off the draft, since there's going to be so much talk of this. So everyone is wondering, and plus you, the Cardinals coverage, what's going on with Larry Fitzgerald? Is he already gone because AJ Green's in there? And do you think there'd be ever a reunion with him and BA here in Tampa?
Based on what he has said publicly before, I think there's virtually zero chance he plays for anyone else other than the Cardinals. So as fun as people like, he could we've been talking about this for years, is like, he could go back home to play for Minnesota. Well, now you've got BA and you've got Tom Brady, because he was, there was a couple of years where trading him to the Patriots was always on the table. We're dating back almost 10 years now, and it's like, get him a ring with with Tom Brady in New England. I'm going to go by this. He hasn't told us he's going to play yet, which probably means he's retiring. And he's always been, he's never been one. And he said, I'm not going to have a big press conference. It might be as simple as leaking a report to a guy like Jim Trotter, who's been the guy who's reported that he's coming back. Or he announces it himself, but it'll be something subtle. He has always told us by this point, and the longer it goes is the less likely that he's going to come back and play. You look at the production last year, it was his lowest. They were his lowest numbers of his career. He caught COVID. He played banged up, and he was hurt enough to miss that season finale. He was really working through a groin injury, and he couldn't even dress for the final game. And he's still been around here because he's a part owner with the Phoenix Suns here in the NBA, and he's super visible with the Suns. So while he isn't saying he knows, and the team isn't saying he knows or they know, I think the writing's on the wall, because I think the Cardinals, in part, one of the reasons why Fitz was willing to come back is the Cardinals were willing to pay him $11.75 million. Fitzgerald quietly has been very much about getting paid. I don't know if he would come back for one of those vet minimum deals that guys often take or have to take to stick around in the league. When he's talked about his ability to produce at a high level, and I think last year might have hit, like, there was another season like this, I think it was 2014, when I saw what was some athletic mortality because he was really banged up. In that 2014 year, honestly, he looked tired. I thought he was going to retire then. And then he had the 3-year run of over 100 catches. And I think 2015 really energized him, because the only thing he has left in his career is one in a ring. And he said, that's the only reason I would come back, because if I think we can do that. Now, the Cardinals have put together a pretty nice team.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at least talent-wise, on paper, they filled some needs. If this were 2013, this would be an all-star team. But I think they're the way they're doing it, because they've got some young talent. And it's kind of doing it. We're going for it in these next 2 years while Kyler Murray's on a rookie deal. Guys like J.J. Watt and A.J. Green, those are guys that Larry would definitely love to play with. I just think he knows he's probably done. And now if it's were to come back, it would be a case where he'd be a number 4 receiver. And I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like, he's a great teammate, but I don't know how satisfied he would be to be riding the coattails as a reserve on a potential championship run. Like, he would love to be part of a championship, but he wants to be part of a championship run. Like, he accepts his role. I mean, he was unhappy about changing roles when BA was here and it moved him to the slot. But he understands now it extended his career. It's what gave him 3 more 100 catch seasons. And so, long story short, once we got to past February and he didn't make an announcement, the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
I don't think he's coming back, because I don't think there will be a team that will pay him enough. I don't think any other team the last few years would have paid him the $11 to $12 million. And one of the reasons why he kept coming back, because the Cardinals were willing to pay him $12 million. I mean, how many jobs are you going to have? Like, he has a ton of business ventures, but to do what he's always been doing, to get $12 million in a year, there aren't many things that do that. So,
someone asked, is Jess trying to convince us to stay away from Fitzgerald?
I don't think even if BA came calling, that Fitz would even consider it, because he knows what his legacy it is. He's not a ring chaser. Like, he wants to win, but he also doesn't want that as part of his legacy, because he's played 17 seasons with the Cardinals. He knows what his legacy is as a player. It's intact. And he said he won't play for anyone else of the Cardinals. So that would be backtracking for something he's previously said.
Like you just said, 409 yards, only 1 touchdown, averaged only 7.6. He's never below 10. That's bad. That's low. Career lows.
Yes. And he's been for a few years, and I say this respectfully and jokingly, kind of a glorified tight end. Not exactly, but he was playing that Hines Ward role that they had in Pittsburgh, which was it wasn't just a receiver because he gets asked to block a lot, which he's willing to do. It's not his favorite thing, but he loves, like, he's willing to do it, and he does a really good job of it. And it allows you to keep a receiver on the field to do some of those things in the run game without having to bring a tight end into the game. And so he's been playing tight end-ish without actually being a tight end for about 5 years now.
Gain 20 pounds, join Gronk in the tight end room. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, we see it with Chris Godwin, but Chris Godwin is a different beast. He's just, more explosive. He can work on the outside. So there's just different things that he presents. But yeah, Larry, he's always going to be a legend. But yeah, I think he's leaning towards retirement. So next question for me, I know we're running short on time, but next question for me is, who do you want at 16th overall? I know I'm going back to draft, but like, who do you want the most if you could pick them at 16?
I don't have, because the Cardinals could do a lot of different things. I think my favorite might be Devontae Smith. I don't know. I've got a number of players that I would be really happy with. J.C. Horn is the guy that's been he's been mocked to the Cardinals over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I would love that. I would love one of those top 3 corners. Caleb Farley, I'm a little more gun shy on now.
Yeah, the back injury is serious.
I also think that, and this is something that he's been out of sight, out of mind. A guy that I also like, Greg Newsome, a heck of a lot. I think he's a sneaky good one. But you could also get some value instead of going round one corner. A guy like Stanford's Paulson Adebo would be sneaky good because, one, he didn't play this last year, so he's kind of out of sight, out of mind. If you look at the ball skills or the production, he's averaged I think he had 35 combined interception / passes defended, pass breakups in 22 games. It's something insane. So averaging somewhere between like about 1.5 per, but basically about 3 per 2 games. He's getting his hands on balls constantly. He's got the length, he's got the physicality, he's got obviously a Stanford guy. He's got some smarts there too. So I think I want to throw it. I would love Najee Harris. Yeah. It's totally a luxury pick, but if you're going to lean into getting that offense, great. They added AJ Green, which is going to slide Christian Kirk in. I mean, everyone's saying Kyle Pitts. There's no way Kyle Pitts is going to be. He's not going to be there at number 16. So obviously he'd be a no-brainer. But I think Najee Harris becomes the perfect complement. Travis Etienne would be great too. But I think Travis Etienne and Chase Edmonds are almost the same guy. So Etienne is essentially a big school, more productive. So a big school, perhaps more talented Chase Edmonds. Najee Harris, I don't think you can go wrong with that pick. Zero. Like he can help in the pass game. He's super physical. He gives you a different running style than Edmonds does, and so you get the complementary styles going. And their running game, which was so good, would be even better. So they wouldn't have to rely on Kyler's legs to make their running game great. And that's almost how it was the last season and a half. Is the running game was great, was very good, was solid from the running backs, but it was great because of Kyler's legs. And if his running was limited at all, the running game was so-so. I think with a guy like Najee Harris, would take that to another level. So it doesn't change the need at cornerback, pass rusher that they could use. It doesn't take care of the offensive line, which is, I mean, that would be more of a future pick, because I think any offensive lineman that they would draft wouldn't play as a rookie probably. And that would probably make Cardinals fans upset.
Pretty damn good for us. I'm not gonna lie.
But honestly, like if I had to pick, like a receiver would be dynamic, because you got AJ Green for 1 year. You might, if Christian Kirk shows that he's again, you can move on from him and when so a Devontae Smith or Najee Harris. So basically Alabama would be great.
Sounds like
sounds good.
I wish I could. I have a little audio clip of it, but I messed up. No, but I mean, I'm still blown away. You guys let Hassan Reddick go. That's why I'm still kind of blown away by.
Let me put it to you this way: as promising as he was, even the Cardinals were, I think, weren't sold that he could duplicate that. And also so when they decided to get J.J. Watt, Reddick became expendable because Watt, like, frankly, because if they're going to use Watt the way that he's been used in the last decade of his career, is that he's going to play inside and out. Like, he's going to start inside at the defensive end position and then kick out to the edge on passing downs. And you've already got Chandler Jones. What's Hassan Reddick going to do on passing downs? And so his playing time and his role, so in terms of how you allocate resources, is bringing back Marcus Golden at $2 million a year makes much more sense than to pay Hassan $8 million a year when he's not going to get the playing time that he did last year. And you're going to be asking him to do more run defense, which he's capable of doing because he has athleticism, but he is a very undersized guy to play the edge. And last year when they moved him out there, I was never convinced that he could be more than a role player, and he proved me wrong. So because he was playing almost 100% of the snaps when he went in there after Chandler Jones went down, and he more than held his own. So I'm interested to see how he turns out when he becomes now he still will be on the end. Granted, he's going to be a defensive end, so he's going to have to be even stronger against the run on those rundowns. And so, but yeah, his role would have been diminished, which diminishes the value. And so it was a case of, would you rather have J.J. Watt for the next 2 years, even an older J.J. Watt, than a Hassan Reddick, as you're trying to kind of really lean into pushing for a ring before Kyler's contract kicks in, which is going to be enormous. It's going to be enormous. And so that's ultimately why Reddick was let go, is because if he was going to get paid what he would deserve to get paid, his role would not have fit that. Right. So Marcus Golden at 2 years and $5 million, that's perfect. Now he's not I don't think he's as dynamic against the run as Reddick could be. But even as it is, they still have Devon Kennard. I don't think they're going to keep him. Devon Kennard is actually the perfect type of player to complement J.J. Watt, because he is so strong on the edge and so disciplined and very good against the run. And so you get that. Plus, so Golden, who can come in and he'll play some in base. He'll spell either one of those players, Chandler Jones, J.J. Watt in nickel. That allows Vance Joseph to use his fun, like he had a no defensive line. He had a 0-6 scheme for passing down. That was honestly that we might not see that this year, because that was all about because they had no defensive linemen healthy. With J.J. Watt and Chandler and Jordan Phillips, they shouldn't have to use that this next year. And then you get Dennis Gardeck coming back probably mid-season from the torn ACL, 93 defensive snaps and 7 sacks. He's a perfect complementary, almost a gadget piece for specific packages that you have while he's dynamic on special teams, and you give him a little role on defense and he can get that. And just Reddick didn't fit as well with JJ Watt in the lineup unless you were going to keep JJ Watt on the interior the whole time, which kind of defeats some of the purpose of having JJ Watt because he can still win on the edge.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a great answer. I think it just goes into, like you were talking about, as far as value and playing time and all that stuff, kind of, it hinged on it. And they're like, we have to use our resources better, and we're going to let, Reddick go for what he deserves as far as contract, et cetera, and have a chance to play elsewhere. So, and you have the draft where you can, find cheaper guys that can do similar things.
Jalen Phillips might fall into their laps at pick 16.
That would be a perfect pick.
And consider Chandler's in his last year, though there are some whispers that an extension's happening. To be able to draft a guy like Phillips in Chandler's contract year, seamless.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. That crazy things have happened. I mean, look what the Dolphins are doing and moving up and down. It's like draft day all over again. It's craziness. I love football, drama. It's all crazy fun, and we're just along for the ride. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
But other than that, let's pause for a moment. We have a little sponsorship, little snippet I'd like to get to before we keep talking. But let's switch over to here. Our sponsor, Symbol, the stock market of sports. So what is this Symbol stuff? Sports betting is rigged in favor of the sports books. Symbol is a long-term market to eliminate the sports books edge and give you back the upper hand. You can trade teams like stocks and earn cash every time your team wins. How's it work? Find your favorite team, the Bucs, or like Jess Root would do, the Cardinals. You earn win payouts. So every time your NFL team wins, you get 50 cents per share that you own. And then you can trade teams like stocks, buy low, sell high, sell overrated teams. Heck, just buy a low ball team like Cincinnati Bengals. Hope Joe Burrow takes them to the top, sell high. Same stuff, stock market. It's really cool, 24/7, 365. I mean, if you want to learn more about it, click the little video down there. Other than that, let's keep going on. We're back. So other than that, yeah, so the last little thing. So someone said they couldn't believe Patrick Peterson left and went to Minnesota. So I guess give your last little opinions on old Patrick P.
Well, here's the thing. They didn't say it exactly, but they didn't not say it. The Cardinals were ready to move on. They didn't intend on re-signing him. Mm. Keim was asked, he was asked, did you offer Pat a contract? And then he talked about, he equated it to the Adrian Wilson situation when he first took the GM job in 2013. And what was one of the first moves he did? He cut Adrian Wilson. Mm-hmm. Pat was a free agent, and so they just never offered him a contract. In fact, when he was asked to do, he never answered that question. And then he was on a podcast with Steve Weish and Jim Trotter. They asked him, had there been a lower cap, had the cap not gone down, would Pat still be on the team? And we'll say for sure. And then he went into this other thing. So honestly, the Cardinals moved on from him. They just decided they wanted to go a different direction at cornerback. And Pat wanted to come back. He made that very public for the last year. Now, granted, Pat, I'm sure, wanted to be paid like the cornerback that he believes that he is. And so the 1 year, $8 million deal that he got with Minnesota is probably about what the Cardinals could have gotten. And he would have signed a multi-year deal with the Cardinals so he could have finished his career with them. But he was still their best cover guy last year. He was still, when he was good, he was good. However, the bad was really bad. Mm. And so there were times when he was as dominant as he's ever been, but then there was other times where his bad was bad. He got beat really bad on a few things. And there are, like, as good as he is outside the numbers, teams know how to take him out of games, and that's by moving guys. So those receivers that run through traffic, it really limits kind of that shutdown ability that he has, which he still can do. And I think the Cardinals were ready to just, okay, before this turns ugly or we see a massive decline, they decided to move on, which is kind of sad, but his legacy is mostly in place. I think he's implied that there's already plans for induction to the Ring of Honor here. Minnesota's an interesting fit for me. I wouldn't have pegged him to there. I would have seen him in Kansas City with Ty Matthew. I would have seen him in Tampa. I would have seen him perhaps even in New York with the Jets with Robert Saleh, who's done good things with guys like Richard Sherman. I did not see him in Minnesota, although what he said, I mean, what Mike Zimmer's done with advanced corners in their career he's got a track record. So it'll be interesting to see, especially the Cardinals will face Pat P this year as Minnesota comes to town.
I'll get pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think you read that perfectly. I think they're ready to move on, and it was just time for him to go in a new direction, and hopefully he does well in Minnesota. But with that said, Jess, I know you probably got to get into the kitchen there soon. So thank you again for coming on. Just let everyone know, where they can find your work and where we can reach out to you if you want to talk football.
Sure. Well, the site's easy. It's Cards Wire. It's part of the USA Today NFL Wire, cardswire.com. The podcast, if you're into listening about the Cardinals, is Rise Up See Red. You can find it anywhere where podcasts are distributed. And on Twitter, you can find me at Senor Jess Root, SENOR, and my name, Jess Root. It's not that hard. And I'm not the only Jess Root out there. There's some girl that teaches yoga on the internet, so you might find her too. But yeah, Jess Root Cardinals, you'll find me.
Yeah, man. No, this has been great. Again, we appreciate the knowledge that you bring, and it was awesome talking for some football. And I know everyone's ready for the draft coming up, and just this whole off season has been a whirlwind. So, but yeah, it was just great getting your insight as far as the schemes and talking some draft. And so yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again. Hopefully, sometime soon, maybe after the draft or something like that.
Or even better, if there's a playoff preview between the two teams.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, you got it.
I can tell you that,
man. But yeah, we'll let you go. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, guys. You heard it there. We're gonna get Barmore. It's a proven. You said Devin White the first time. Now it's Barmore.
Yeah.
Mark, you're an idiot.
Well, I guess I'm an idiot too, but it's like, looking at Christian Barmore, and yeah, I mean, I can see it because he does offer some pass rush ability. He is a different version of what we do have. He can get up the field like we said in our, film study. And yeah, he does have some pass rush ability. He can come in on third down and help you from that standpoint. But yeah, he needs a lot of coaching as far as just technique and really holding up against the run, needs more strength. And yeah, maybe he's a guy that they add more weight on. He's got a frame that could he could do it. So that'd be an interesting pick again. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, that was awesome to have Jess Root on and just talking, how the scheme works. It's all about power, it's about length. That's what they look for inside. On the outside, they want obviously athletic ability. And then from the middle, you're going to have those linebackers blitz, and and also I don't think he mentioned, but we cover it, the defensive backs and safeties. You like interchangeable safeties that can do multiple things, and then the corners that have to be, long and press corners. We like that too.
I mean, so a lot of that's why we kind of were talking about it. Plus, kind of bickering back and forth before the live stream about the Miami Pro Day. So like that's a big topic that was today. So talking about all these guys that had an amazing pro day. So you look over, Jalen Phillips, we're talking about him, 6'5", almost 6'6", 260, ran a 4.56 40. Insane for a guy that size. I mean, yes, athletically, size-wise, he has it all. I think you guys have seen our film study of it. And the big question mark was Greg Russo. We have a film study on him as well. His His broad jump was 9.7, had like a 4.7 40-yard dash. He was mainly size. You don't really see much in quickness or anything. And plus his bugaboo was he doesn't have much bend. But I'm like, if you use him correctly, that's what we kind of asked Jess Root. If you use him correctly as a 5 tech or something, in my opinion, that fits better for what we do. Stopping the run. He's a power type of guy. We're not looking for a bendy type of dude. Shaq Barrett's the outlier. I mean, he's just a different type of animal, in my opinion. Yeah. So he just fits more naturally in almost anything because of his skill. Greg Russo doesn't have that. Not many pass rushers at that time will probably have that either. Throw it up, but I mean, if he's there, I highly doubt he will be there. But I'm just saying he would be a good fit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, more looking at it, I mean, if we do, like you said, play him from the 5 tech, and you can develop him as far as using his bend, or not his bend, but his length, and like using, those arms to use, bull rushes and power and push the pocket. Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm confident in Jason too. I think he's going to knock it out of the park once again. Can't wait to see it. Golston is under contract, but Rousseau, it would be very intriguing because he's got, that size. He's, 6'6", pretty much 270-ish. And he did run a 4.7, which is very impressive, but just doesn't have that lateral movement yet. It's just not there. I don't know if you can develop that or not. But as far as going upfield and using his power, definitely he could be an asset for sure. And, obviously you would play him inside, not put him on the edge and not have him drop back. Maybe you could drop him back, but mostly going upfield.
I mean, stunts, power, length, use that. I mean, I think Todd Bowles could use that perfectly. I mean, look at Anthony Nelson. He is not a guy that can cover in space, but they still let him do it because it fits the scheme. I mean, they're not going to put a guy to look like a moron out there.
Yeah.
Make it simpler on the guy. Yes, the powerhouses are your middle linebackers. We learned that the hard way. We kind of touched on that earlier in the pod. But, I mean, hey, it's trying to figure out what Todd Bowles likes, what does BA like, and putting it together to kind of come to a conclusion of what they could draft. I mean, no one really knows. Again, Keyshawn Vaughn was there high on their board. Everyone got pissed off. I mentioned that too. Who cares? That's their board. Hell, Matt Gay was a pick by Jason Light. We get high on his board. So we don't truly know. Some picks you're going to get mad at, and then you look at the film and you're like, okay, this guy ain't half bad, right? So and that brings me to the running back position. So all 22 starters are back. That makes that number 32 pick. It can be best player available. But one of your discussions on Twitter was about the running back position and how you want to have a running back that can do both, run the ball well and catch the ball well. And I want you to discuss the argument that you kind of proposed, and people were like, oh, that's crazy. That's hogwash. Go ahead and divulge into that.
Well, I mean, you look at the running back group that the Bucs currently have. I mean, you have 2 running backs that are going to be free agents next year, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, and you have Keyshawn Vaughn coming back, and that's pretty much it, So do you think Keyshawn is going to be your future? Again, that remains to be seen. Really hasn't had much of an opportunity. Does he take another step? But running back in this draft, I mean, I just like to have a guy that can do everything. And when you look across the league, I pointed this out on Twitter. I was like, a lot of guys can catch the football and they can also run decently. Again, you don't have to be elite at any part of that. You can be good enough. And, again, the running back, it doesn't have to be elite position in this league anymore because, it's not counted upon as much as it used to be. Again, it's still the passing game dominates this league. So if you can have a running back that can catch the football and still be good enough inside the tackles and do some things that way, I think it's a big advantage for you. I mean, you just look at what, James Robinson did for Jacksonville. Again, not a great running back, good running back that can do multiple things. He can catch the football. He can run. You look at the guy out in
Myles Gaskin out of Miami.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin, Kenyon Drake for Arizona that we, just had Jess Root on. You look at the 49ers, like Mozart, that guy can run and catch. And, so there's a lot of backs out there that can do these things.
People hung up thinking if you can catch the ball, you got to be elite. Like
No.
going around, we're like Zeke, Saquon Barkley, Kamara, and McCaffrey. I'm like, yeah, those guys are the elite of elite. I don't want those guys.
Right. We're not asking for that.
Plus, I'm looking for a guy that can just catch the ball when asked to consistently and can run the ball as well. I'm not saying I'm not looking to pay. Obviously, this team is not built to just let's pound it down in the middle of the field every time. We're looking to push the ball. I mean, run the ball well. We're not looking to just a guy that can break 5 tackles and then take it down. We're not looking for Derrick Henry. Put it that way. People get hung up. It was the same thing of the Donovan Smith talk. Like, it sucks. Just because he doesn't dominate every rep does not mean a guy sucks. We're looking at just a guy that can do the basics of what a position should do.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you get into the draft, and that's why I think they are going to draft one, because they're going to need, I like Felton as well. I think he's a guy that can do those kind of things. You look at Kenneth Gainwell, Michael Carter Jr., Javonte Williams, if they do want to take one early, if they trade back, or if they do take him at 32, so there's plenty of options there. Kylan Hill is another one that I'm going to look into. So there's plenty of guys out there. But that's why we discussed with Rojo, and obviously we love Rojo, but he just hasn't been consistent, catching the football at all. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're showing highlights of him making big plays catching the football, but that's far few in between. And yeah, he's a great runner when he's healthy. So it just comes down to, are they going to extend him? We don't know that yet. So obviously there's going to be a running back taken at some point, whether that's early, late, middle rounds. It's going to happen.
So in the chat, so I can't pronounce this. Jermalafi XO says, we have those guys. Speaking of running backs, we don't need a running back. Quarterback. All right, so let's go over this. So,
we got Tom Brady. I don't think we need a quarterback.
I'm pretty sure he just means for the future. Now, I agree with him in that aspect.
I don't see us drafting a quarterback unless it's
fourth round.
Day three, later on.
To his credit, okay, we have Fournette back, yes, who can catch and run. He's a typical guy that, he can do everything.
Yeah, but he's been inconsistent as well.
Yeah, especially running the ball. Especially, it's not like we forgot about all that. Yes, he's playoff Lenny and Lombardi Lenny, but did he get that nickname during the regular season? Hell no. I'm surprised that they stuck with him for that long. But hey, he did it when you really needed it. But the thing is, like Mike said, we're going to have both those guys on contract years. Are we going to extend one of those big money? Rojo's going to want a big contract. He's never had a big contract. So he's going to want that. Fournette, how many more years is he going to want to do this? If Brady and Gronk retire, he ain't going to come back here. So that leaves you with Keyshawn Vaughn. So I guarantee those two guys are gone. Is Vaughn going to be your bell cow and no one behind him, and you just draft another rookie? I don't think so. I think you're going to have.
I mean, they could wait till next year to obviously reload at that position, but it's still a risk. You could bypass running back in the rounds and maybe pick up like an undrafted back. So there's options. I mean, they could definitely do that, but I don't know if they want to put themselves in that position quite yet. I mean, I think they want to add at least another one to the group.
To be honest though, that word need, there's not much of a need anywhere along the line or along the depth chart as well. I mean, if anything, it's been defensive line. That's why we have so many like film studies of defensive linemen. I mean, behind JPP and Shaq, there's nothing. It's just bare. Okay. So JPP is on his last contract or last year of his contract. How much more his knee's going to take? You don't know. And then Shaq, you got one guy for around 4 years. Let's see. Like, is there going to be a compliment to him? Is there another guy if Vita Vea goes down? No. I mean, it was huge for us. And Sue, he's borderline retired already. So he was debating coming back or not. So, I mean, that to us is the biggest area of need for the future. But that's what we're trying to push towards you. I mean, that's why we always talk to you guys and figure out some things.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, obviously they're in a position where they can attack future needs. So you look at guys that are up for contracts. You look at interior offensive line. You look at running back. You look at obviously defensive line because of Ndamukong Suh and JPP. So when you look at those positions, I think they want to attack those this year so they have those guys to develop, and especially with off season that it's going to be with COVID and everything, you want those guys in the building sooner the better. So you have guys in place to take over for those said positions if those guys leave, if you can't re-sign them back. Same thing with corner and Carlton Davis. Like if they're prepared to let him go, you might want a corner in place to take his spot. So I think that's where they have to look at, and that's why they might make those positions priority, because they're free agents and you have contracts that they might not be able to re-sign, even with the salary cap going up as it is.
Well, then again, Tom Brady could be gone, Gronk could be gone. That's a lot of money leaving the books. So,
yeah,
but
Brady's going to be here for next season. I mean, he's already committed. Yeah, I mean, after that, after 2022, then you have to look at quarterback. So they'll probably look at a quarterback next year, maybe with maybe next year's class is better, and maybe they have a better chance to pick a quarterback earlier because they have the positions that are needs, said needs this year already locked up, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, either way, the team's locked up. They proved they can win a Super Bowl with these 22. Might as well run it back and see if we can do it again, but even better with a year of experience and now a year of training camp. Hopefully, BA says he's going to kick the bleeping shit out of him or whatever. I don't know what he said exactly, but it's been all over the news right now. But all right, there's a lot of talk in the chat about trading up in the draft.
Guy loves Micah Parsons. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see us moving up that quite far. I mean, you probably have to move into like the top 15 to get Micah Parsons, or at least top 18. So I don't see that as a possible scenario. I don't think they want to trade future picks right now. I mean, unless they're going for a quarterback, and I don't think that's going to happen either. So
I don't think you should. Don't pull Packers.
Yeah, or Saints. I mean, you don't trade up for Marcus Davenport. So
if you're trading up for someone, it's someone that's it's a home run in your book. I mean, it should not be like when the Cowboys traded up for like Des Bryant years ago. I was like, why the hell is he still there? Like stuff like that. We're like, what?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like I see us more trading back than trading.
Right. Yeah. Unless like Jalen Phillips is like 2-3 picks away. Like he's like right there. Maybe we move up and go get him. But I don't see us moving farther than that. Like I don't see us making a move where it costs us like a future first, maybe like a third round pick we're willing to give up to move up a couple spots. I could see, but
even with that, like, so you're going to trade for someone, you're going to trade up for someone that's not really going to play much.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. So you're better off waiting.
Because and realistically, so if you're thinking trade up, get your guy, you're going to trade away picks for next year, especially if you're moving up that high. You're probably giving up a first next year, if not a second. Like, who is it that's so valuable that you need that's going to contribute and make this team even better than it is right now?
I mean,
I wouldn't reach for running back at all. I would not trade up for running back.
No. I mean, there's really no spots. I mean, the only position you could potentially upgrade, and even though this guy he played his ass off and he played well, is maybe Alex Kappa, but that's about it. I mean, JPP, Shaq Barrett, they don't go off the field. So, I think, I don't think there's many replacement spots to be had. That's for sure.
So, I mean, just remove that from your head. I mean, let's just be honest. So they fall to 15, but 32 to 15 is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. You're talking multiple first round picks.
So let's clear that out of the head. But I mean, my thing is running back, if at 32 and it's Najee Harris, ETN, okay, possibly Williams out of North Carolina. That's if BA loves him that much, because it helped. He almost drafted
Antonio Gibson
over Antoine Winfield last year. Let's think about it. Literally, he did that publicly. So
yeah, and that's probably why they're looking at like Felton and Gainwell, because they're similar players, and could be had later for sure.
I mean, that's the other reason why we're kind of looking at a lot of pass catching running backs. It's not just this year's moving forward and how Brady can use these guys. He loves doing it. Rojo, you saw his KC touchdown, blah, blah, but I can also make a whole bunch of low light clips of him dropping balls and like balls that hit him in the hand or balls where he gave it to the other team because he couldn't catch it or tipped it into the other team's hands. So, I mean, you can do highlight, low light, and anyone make them look really good or really bad.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Not on the field ever. But, I mean, wait, let's see. PTSD from Mark Dominic. Hey, well, I mean, it's ideas. This is running ideas through.
Yeah, everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah, but 32-15, that is really high. You're giving up. This is funny. Antoine Whitfield over Gibson.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wonder what he thinks about Jason Owe or that grocer says he's talking about Micah Parsons so much. Must be a Penn State guy. I don't know.
Jason Owe on the way, guys.
Yeah, on the way.
Wonders what we have coming up.
Yeah, a lot of running backs, more defensive line.
What we were kind of touching on. That's why we.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're just trying to see what fits. I mean, this is draft season. We're just talking it up left and right. The Bucs aren't really doing anything in free agency, so let's sit pretty and see who we're going to take.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're 30 days away from this, so we're going to try to put as many videos as we can out during that time. I think we're already over multiple videos. I think we're over 10, 15, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun. And it's cool seeing the back and forth on the comments. So we appreciate that. If you guys haven't already, I know there's, only 15 people, but please give us a like for this content. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please be sure to subscribe. We appreciate, I think everyone's probably watching the basketball right now. That's probably why we're, not many people in here, but we do appreciate the ones who are. Again, Fukuwab, always awesome. Or Braden, I should say.
Braden, thank you very much for that.
Yeah. So you're the man, and the new people in here appreciate it. Bud Canalis always in here talking it up. So thank you for watching and providing your support.
Other than that, guys, go watch your basketball, enjoy it. Sign up for Symbol if you haven't. It helps support the channel as well. And it's really cool. I mean, I'll probably do a little show on how to buy a Bucs stock and everything. It's cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, I bought it when it was like $30. It's like $45 now. So check that out, guys. Links in the description. Other than that, guys, enjoy your night. And until the next one, next Monday.
Yes, go Bucs.